Theresa May said the UK cannot possibly remain within the European single market, as that would mean not leaving the EU at all. Some feel this tough talking by the Prime Minister could be a response to American President Donald Trump's hostile comments about the EU and its positive remarks about a post-Brexit US-UK trade deal. However, commentators have warned the British Prime Minister not to put all her faith in the US because the deal might not be as attractive as she thinks.
Sir Andrew Kahn, who advised on setting up the single market in the 1980s, warned of the difficulties of negotiating a trade deal with Donald Trump, stating, "The implacable truth of trade deal negotiations is that if you want something, you have to pay for it." Sir Andrew added, "The smaller negotiating partner pays more and gives more than the larger negotiating partner, and it takes a long time, 5 to 10 years. Meanwhile, newly appointed President Trump has suggested the UK is doing great and would get a great deal. In his first interview about the UK with former Justice Secretary Michael Gove representing the Times newspaper, Mr. Trump said he thought the UK was so smart in getting out and promised a quick trade deal between the US and UK. By contrast, outgoing President Obama said in April 2016 that the UK would be at the back of the queue if it left the EU.
What type of trade deal will Donald Trump offer the UK? And is this the beginning of the end for the European Union? Simple questions with important answers. How does the public feel about Theresa May's promise to take the UK out of the single market? We asked them.
Well, I'm the Remainer, so I'm not very happy about that.
Why not?
Well, because I think our future should be within Europe, not outside of Europe.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because once we've signed up for Brexit, we don't really have many cards to play with. I mean, surely she may as well go for that in the first instance, because I don't think Europe's going to budge otherwise. I think it's realistic, I suppose. It's not something that I personally would have gone for, but once you've kind of made that decision and take the plunge, what are you going to do? It does break my heart slightly, because I worry for business in this country, but I don't think she had many options, to be honest.
I think that's fair enough, actually. I think it's important not to be constrained by all the kind of the rules and regulations that are surrounding that, and I think it will give us more freedom actually in terms of trade and to be able to take care of our own business.
Well, I don't think she had any choice. At the end of the day, with leaving Brexit, she had to honour what the people said, and I think that's just part and parcel of the deal that she'll have to do.
I think it's a promise she's got to uphold because the people voted for it.
I think it's a very good idea.
I think it would be not very good for the British people and not very good for the European Union either.
Well, as an American citizen, I can only speak from a distance, but I think that's up to the British people. I think it's a risky move, but, if the people voted for it, then they have to go along with it, I suspect.
Well, I don't believe that Theresa May has much flexibility on this matter. If she doesn't withdraw Britain from the single market, then the right wing of her party, the Conservative Party, could cause serious problems for her. There could be a very, very nasty backlash for the Prime Minister from her own party, which of course could destabilise her premiership and of course could bring her down. And then she's up against the media, which is overwhelmingly right wing and which wants to see Britain completely out of the European Union, which of course means the single market as well. So while I don't personally believe that Theresa May is unsympathetic to the notion of Britain being in the single market, I don't think there is much she can do on this matter.
To be honest with you, I feel very bad. Because based on a lot of things, as you know, and many people in this country know, that referendum based on a lot of lies and prejudice. We actually, everybody feels nowadays, particularly things are, we are caught between two fronts. One in America, what's going on in America nowadays, and what's already happening in Europe by the right-wing parties. And it's like there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of things that are not clear that Theresa May and politicians in this country needs to be clear about.
Does the public have faith that Theresa May will do what is best for Britain in her Brexit negotiations?
I think she will. Well, I think she's quite a competent Prime Minister. She comes across very well, and given the fact that democracy rules and we are leaving, then I'm quite sure she'll do a good job for us.
That needs to be tempered, but certainly there's a lot of rhetoric from Theresa May at the moment, supporting the people and allowing it to be. I don't know, there might be elements driving her that she needs to listen to everybody.
Probably more than any of the other candidates that were standing up for the post. I think she's probably the best that we've got. It's a very difficult task though, isn't it? There is so much to do, so much riding on it. Are Europe going to make an example out of the UK? Well, I would understand if they tried to. I think she's tough, and I think she's fair, and I think she's measured, and I think now that she's there doing the job, all that we can do is go, all right then, go on.
Yeah, I think she will. I don't think she's there to make up the numbers. I think she's there with a clear mandate of the people, and I get the impression that she's, both personally and professionally, somebody that can deliver that.
She will definitely want to do the best for the people of Britain. She's in the role that she's in, and I think she will do very well.
I think it's her duty to do so.
I hope she will, but so long as she takes into account the interests of all those people who voted against Brexit.
Theresa May is an exceptionally hard-working politician. In fact, she's one of the most hard-working MPs that you can come across. However, we do have to consider the possibility that she will take decisions which ultimately will serve her own premiership. And we can draw a comparison with David Cameron. David Cameron, during the Scottish referendum campaign, argued that he puts country first and party second. However, he chose to hold a referendum on the European Union for Conservative Party reasons, i.e. to stop the hemorrhaging of support from the Conservative Party to UKIP. So David Cameron in that situation put party first, country second, and I do not believe it's inconceivable that Theresa May will do something very similar. Ultimately, she does not want to fall from power, and if that means taking decisions which benefit more so the party as opposed to Britain, then I suspect she will do that, as what a lot of politicians would do.
I don't whatsoever, believe she's going to do what's the best of Britain, and because, as I said, a lot of questions to be answered. In her speech, she's not clear about her plans and what's going to happen to take this country out of Europe.
Now that Donald Trump is president, are people in Britain confident about the prospects for post-Brexit Britain?
I believe that Trump is probably kindly disposed towards the UK more than Barack Obama was. I'm a bit concerned about his view America first, but I think if there's an opportunity to deal with him, we stand a better chance with this administration than the last one.
He's pro-America, pro-American industry, how that relates to trade negotiations with us. You've got to remember, if you're going to negotiate in trade, there is a process. You have to look at all our friends in Europe who might have different agreements, or there's a period you have to make a trade negotiation. You don't just go in a boardroom, stand up, slam your fist on the table, let's do business. It doesn't work like that. He will hopefully be getting advised it doesn't work like that, but I don't see the benefit because most of our trade is with Europe and it dwarfs what trade we do in America. I know there's investment from America, but trade-wise, Europe's a bigger player than America will ever be. So he'll know that, and he's also protectionist. Whether that works in our favour, I don't know.
My gut is to say, less confident, Trump's in charge, what? But you never know, and again, I think you've just got to have faith that he has said, and now I know he's retracted and, he said things before and then unsaid them, but he has said he's happy to work with the UK, so it could be a good thing, but I caveat that because it's Donald Trump we're talking about here.
I think the Trump question is a really interesting one. I am worried about it, but I just think there's more to it than behind the scenes. I think he will have to quickly learn that although he's got power on his own, there are a team of people around him, and I think he needs to have a global perspective. I'm not so worried that it'll impact Brexit. Trump is powerful, but he's not the only guy on the block, as it were, in play.
Sure, I think the short term it's been a little bit damaging, but I think in the long term it'll be a good thing.
I think that to have Trump on board is a change because he's a businessman, and we're looking for all economies to actually grow in scale. So I think instead of a politician who have been quite untrustworthy for many generations, it would be interesting to see how a businessman deals with that.
I'm very disappointed by the election of Donald Trump, and I don't have high expectations that he will do a good job. So it's very doubtful, and it's very unsettling to have a president like this man. I don't trust him at all. So I don't know what the future holds for him and our country. I'm very concerned.
Well, I don't think we can really judge Donald Trump at the moment. He has only just become president, and we need to give him time to see what sort of leader he's going to be. In fact, I think we can say that Donald Trump is uncertain about what sort of president he's going to be. It's not very clear what his policies are on a number of matters. Now, in regard to Britain and a Britain which is post-Brexit, we really just have to wait and see. Of course, the Prime Minister will recently meet with Donald Trump, and we have to see what the contents of that meeting is. But at the moment, it's very difficult to tell because, of course, Donald Trump is an unknown quantity and he is a maverick, and so we just have to give him time to settle into the White House, and then we can judge the situation then.
No, not at all, because many of what we are seeing and what we heard from Donald Trump inaugural speech, most of his speech actually based on a lot of chauvinism and prejudice, and I don't think he's going to have a good deal with Donald Trump, because even he's the guy who's full of many contradictions, if you want to say that, and he's whatever he's going to deal is going to with Mr. Donald is going to have in his interest, because he was saying that everything is going to be America first. So I don't believe.
Donald Trump has spoken a lot about migration from the EU to the UK. Net migration to the United Kingdom in the year ending June 2016 was 335,000. Of these, 189,000 came from the European Union and 146,000 from outside the EU. This was a major issue in the debate on whether the UK should leave the European Union.
Donald Trump has predicted that Brexit is only the start, that it will cause a domino effect and other countries will also leave the European Union. What are the public's thoughts on the effects of Brexit on the rest of the EU?
Well, I don't see how it can't affect it, given we're such a major contributor to the European process, both financially and in terms of policy. So I think that the next 12 months will be very interesting, given the elections in Germany and France.
Well, I go to Italy a lot, and everyone over there is quite shocked that we've left. And although the Italians generally scathing about their own governments, are quite happy about the EU. So I don't see that personally. But it is in America's and Trump's interest to split the EU because, as I alluded to earlier, it's a massive trade bloc that they have trouble competing with.
Yeah, I think it's certainly a wake-up call. I think others are going to start to look at their own situation and see what it is. It certainly weakens the EU, and I think it may well be a domino effect, certainly with some countries. it's a brave new world we're entering into. But actually, the will of the people has spoken, and that's ultimately what's the biggest problem with the EU. Really, is it's about unelected people doing stuff that people are unhappy with. I think people need to take note of that.
I think the EU's got problems anyway prior to Brexit, and I think they have their own internal government regulated problems. So from that, it's no actual change, and you can't use Brexit as an excuse.
Well, the Brexit will affect the EU by us being a better country, in the sense that we'll be able to do our marketing around the world instead of just with 27 countries. Now, there are 500 million people in Europe. In actual fact, there's 900 million, but we only deal with 500. There are 9 billion people in the world. Why are we not dealing with them?
I don't think Brexit's a good thing for Europe, but it might cause them to reform, and in some ways might encourage people to other European countries to come together more. So it will have the opposite effect to what Trump.
That's a good question. I don't know. It's a sort of a domino theory. If you knock one over, they all go over. I don't know. I think economically, though, it's very risky because Britain and Germany are the two largest economies in Brexit. I mean, in the EU. So it should have an impact on all those smaller countries, I would imagine.
I believe the European Union is a lot stronger than what some people realise. Yes, there is discontent amongst ordinary people within the bloc, but that discontent does not necessarily translate into those people wanting their country to pull out of the European Union. So I do not believe that the European Union is going to collapse. Is there the possibility that another member or another 2 members could vote to leave? Yes, I think we have to look at the Netherlands perhaps. We need to look at Denmark perhaps. But apart from those 2, there is no indication, or certainly no indication at the moment, that other countries are going to follow in the footsteps of Britain. And certainly the population of Germany and France, which are the 2 most important countries within the European Union, are very, very clear in their opinion that the European Union should remain together, it should be reformed, and that any challenges, any threats to the future of the European Union should be met.
Well, this thing has been going for a while, even before his campaign starts, and I think he was right about that point. And we are already seeing a lot of campaigns, similar campaigns going, which already has been going in Norway, where a lot of national movements wanting to split from the Europe as well. And also we've seen 3 days ago when the summit, which national parties, European national parties were gathering in Germany, is including one of the far-right wings of Europe, including the president candidate of France, Marine Le Pen. So we are really facing a new wave, a new world. As she said that we are starting a new world. A new world is going to come, and the nation states is coming to Europe again. On the other side of the world, also we are seeing that the Arab Spring, the wars that has been going in Libya or in Iran or Iraq, and also in Syria. So we are seeing new changes in the world. The world is becoming a new world. And I think Donald Trump, what he was saying is that his presidency coming to the White House is going to happen somewhere else, and that's what we are seeing now in Europe. Yeah.
Donald Trump has promised a fantastic trade deal with Britain once the UK officially leaves the EU. What type of deal will that be, and who will benefit the most? We asked the public.
I would have thought Donald Trump would benefit the most given his position, so we'll just have to wait and see.
America will always benefit America, and in the past we've all said we don't want to be military poodles of America, which has happened in the past, and but we could be an economic poodle of America.
It's a difficult one. Trump has promised lots of fantastic things. He's also promised more jobs for America, but if you analyse that, a lot of those jobs that have gone abroad are now automated anyway. So I don't take that as read that it would be a fantastic deal. I don't really know what it would look like, actually. Maybe I don't have enough knowledge on that one, but I don't know what goods and services we would in fact exchange. It's kind of back to the drawing board, isn't it? And what was the last part of the question?
Who would benefit the most from that deal?
Well, if Trump's got anything to do with it, and if you listen to his inauguration speech, Trump, he's all about America, he's all about their interests and not ours. So if he's in charge, what hope have we got? I mean, you've got to hope it's fair and balanced, but again, I'm not going to make any bets on that one.
Yeah, Trump's not silly, is he? He's in it to make sure that the American people get the best deal out of that. I don't think he's there. I don't think he sees Britain as a charity case. I think he sees us as a key ally. But Trump's got America at heart, and fair play to him. I think we need Theresa to make sure that she equally stands up to him and gets a deal that's good for Britain too.
I think that the US and the UK will both benefit from it, and I think hopefully the EU sees sense and they will actually join in the collaboration, and globally everyone will benefit.
Well, I would think that if he wanted to deal with us, he would benefit the most, but that doesn't mean we can't get something from it.
Well, Trump's whole philosophy has been America first, so if he's entering into a deal with anyone, his best interests will be served, I think.
Well, if you believe his rhetoric, it's America first, so it will benefit America the most.
Well, what concerns me about something, when he says something like that, I think he's more concerned about what it would do for him personally, financially. He's a pretty greedy man, and he's proved that in his business history in America. He's not very honest, and I don't like anything he's doing right now.
Donald Trump is prone to using grand words like fantastic, like terrific, like great. And those words don't really mean anything in the real world. They might look good on his Twitter account, they might sound good if he's given a rally, but when it comes down to the reality of politics, the reality of economics, it's not as simple as that. Yes, it's important for Britain in a post-Brexit world to find new trade deals with the big countries in the world, not the small economies, but with the big economies. So for example, America, for example, Canada, for example, China and India. And it is very, very important that the British government go into those talks ensuring that the other countries do not have an advantage, because there are some countries in the world who consider Britain at the moment to be almost like a beggar. They are desperate for new trade deals. And what can that mean in business? It means that the other party can gain a more advantageous trade deal over Britain. So that's something that Theresa May needs to be very, very careful about.
For sure, the US, Donald Trump is going to benefit from this, because he said clearly that in his inaugural speech that a phrase "America is going to coming first before everything else." As you know, the British exports to the European Union have about 290 billion a year for services and trading, and I think Theresa May needs to find somewhere else. And there's no much difference actually in terms of coming from out of the European Union and going to the US. But yes, the deal is going basically about goods and services, and also probably about arms manufacturing, but basically about services, goods and services.
Donald Trump has stated countries want their own identity, and the UK wanted its own identity. But I do think if they hadn't been forced to take in all of the refugees, then you wouldn't have a Brexit. Now he's talking about a trade deal with the UK.
Is Theresa May now basing her Brexit strategy on a good deal with the US, thanks to President Trump? Various political parties, a union and pressure groups fear Mrs May's Brexit strategy would shift the UK from reliance on the EU to reliance on America and Mr Trump. And they question if this really is the safest way to proceed.